Hi, my name is Tanya. This is my presentation on my selected career profile for the Marriage and Family Studies classes. The career that I chose is one that I'm actually quite interested in and is a little bit related to my current job. I currently work at a local jail, and so the career profile I chose was a probation officer or correctional treatment specialist. I work and have contact with people who work in this field pretty frequently. As far as the working environment, it can be fairly stressful. Probation officers and correctional treatment specialists work exclusively with criminal offenders, and so that in itself is a stressful condition. Some of these offenders can be physically violent. A lot of them have mental disabilities, and in this environment, especially as a probation officer, you can be working alone quite often, and so a lot of probation officers will carry a firearm or taser or some other type of personal protection in case they end up in situations that are difficult like that, where they may be under threat of physical harm. They can also have frequent contact with correctional facilities and hospitals and things that are not very sanitary situations, and be exposed to communicable diseases and things like that. They tend to have, they can have anywhere from very light to very heavy caseloads. And they are under strict deadlines as far as legal procedures. They have to follow very strict guidelines and timelines as far as when things are reported. If somebody that they're working with has a probation violation, they have a certain amount of time to file documents with the courts and to follow up with written paperwork. They also have to be very flexible with their scheduling. Although office hours tend to be typical Monday through Friday daytime hours, it does require a lot of after hours work with doing residency checks and job checks and things of that nature. Working environment for people who deal more with the correctional treatment, they tend to work with the offenders who are still in jail, and they work with them on preparing them to re-enter society, or they work with them through what's called alternative sentencing programs, where rather than being sent to prison, they're given the opportunity to successfully complete very strict programming guidelines that helps to rehabilitate them. If they're able to successfully complete that kind of programming, then they do not have to finish out the rest of their sentence. These types of sentencings are becoming quite common, and so this is a growing field, especially with states that politically tend to lean more towards rehabilitation than very strict no-nonsense crime policies. Benefit-wise, 97% of workers in this field will work for either a state or local government, which means the benefits tend to be pretty good. Medical and dental benefits, vacation, sick time, FMLA, things like that. Benefits tend to be pretty good. So that's one additional benefit of the job. Common job tasks, again, is meeting on a regular basis with offenders. For probation officers, they will have regular check-ins and things that they have to do to make sure that their probationers are complying with court-ordered requirements. They require some assessment on new clientele to determine what their needs are, what areas they're going to need help in. Same thing would apply for people who are correctional treatment specialists. They tend to do an initial assessment of needs, and then develop a rehabilitation program that's specialized for that person, for what their needs are. And then the rehabilitation program looks at helping them work through the problems, dealing with education or vocational needs, and preparing them to be reunited with their families upon release and re-entering society, and developing some aftercare strategies for them as well. Requirements are typically a bachelor's degree. Most states also require them to go through what's called post-training, which is peace officer standards training. This includes some components of personal safety and things like that. Other additional requirements will depend on the specialties that they go into. If somebody specializes as a domestic violence or has caseload that centers around domestic violence offenders, they may go through some additional specialty training in working with people who have that kind of a criminal history. Salary range, specifically for Idaho Falls, which is the area I live in, starting salary range is $24,900 per year. An experienced salary range would be $45,800. The median salary nationally is $47,200. Again, the job outlook is pretty good, especially in certain states. So that is my career profile and one of the things that I'm considering focusing on as I continue my education. Thanks.